Dr. Jessica Miller's fingers danced across her quantum detection console, her weathered Navy SEAL ring catching the blue glow of multiple monitors. Something was off about the readings, and after 15 years of military service, followed by a PhD in xenophysics, she'd learned to trust her instincts. "Come on, where are you hiding?" she muttered, eyes scanning the cryptic data streams flowing across her screen. The Nilorady bunker hummed with its usual activity, but Jess had tuned it all out, focused entirely on the anomalous patterns she'd been tracking for the past 3 hours. Colonel Thompson stopped by her station, coffee in hand. "Still chasing ghosts, Miller." "Not ghosts, sir." She pointed to a seemingly random cluster of numbers. "Look at these quantum fluctuations. They're too ordered, too precise. Natural phenomena don't create patterns like this." The colonel leaned in, his expression shifting from skepticism to curiosity. "Similar to our stealth tech." "Similar, but far more advanced." Jess pulled up a comparison chart. "Whatever this is, it's bending spacetime itself to maintain invisibility. But they made one crucial mistake. They're assuming we're only looking for traditional electromagnetic signatures. Above them, hidden by miles of rock and advanced shielding, an alien observer named Zix 427 was indeed watching Earth's military installations with supreme confidence in their cloaking technology. The Galactic Confederation had used this same approach to study thousands of emerging civilizations. None had ever detected them. Jess cracked her knuckles and began implementing her plan. Instead of reporting the anomaly of the chain of command, she initiated a series of subtle changes to the quantum detection grid's scanning patterns. To any observer, it would appear as routine system maintenance. "You're testing them," Thompson realized, keeping his voice low. "Better." Jess allowed herself a small smile. "I'm letting them think they're completely invisible while gradually adjusting our sensors to track them more precisely. If I'm right about the technology they're using, they'll mistake our quantum adjustments for random background noise." In orbit, Zix 427 noticed the subtle changes in Earth's detection systems, but dismissed them as primitive fluctuations in the planet's defensive grid. The observer had studied countless military installations across the galaxy and had categorized Earth's technology as barely worth noting. That assumption lasted exactly 73 more seconds. Jess executed the final phase of her impromptu plan, synchronizing multiple quantum sensors in a way that made them appear to be malfunctioning. As the alien observer watched Earth's primitive detection grid seemingly glitch and restart, Jess used the coordinated sensor data to construct a perfect three-dimensional model of the cloaked ship. "Got you," she whispered, then turned to Colonel Thompson. "Sir, permission to run exercise protocol Delta 7. The colonel's eyes widened slightly. Delta 7 was a complex naval exercise designed to demonstrate force projection capabilities. "You want to show them what we can do without letting them know we see them." "Exactly." Jess was already programming the parameters. "We'll make it look routine, but every maneuver will be precisely calculated to demonstrate our capabilities in a way they can't miss. Let's give our friends upstairs something to think about." Thompson studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Do it. But Miller, keep this between us for now. If you're right about our visitor, I want to see how they react." As alerts went out to the fleet and forces began mobilizing for the routine exercise, Zix 427 settled in to observe what they expected to be another primitive display of human military power. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would challenge everything the Confederation thought they knew about emerging civilizations. Jess allowed herself another small smile as she watched the first ships begin moving into position. The game was on, and she was playing for keeps. Zix 427 watched with growing unease as the human naval exercise unfolded below. Something felt wrong, but the observer couldn't quite identify what. Every movement of the carrier group seemed routine, textbook even, yet impossible. Zix 427 muttered, manipulating the ship's sensors for the fourth time in an hour. The human vessels were executing maneuvers that, while appearing simple on the surface, created overlapping fields of coverage that shouldn't have been possible with their level of technology. Back in Narration, Jess suppressed a grin as she tracked the alien ship's increasingly frantic sensor sweeps. "They're starting to figure it out," she told Colonel Thompson, who stood watching the main display. "Watch this next sequence." On the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the U.S. Gerald R. Ford carrier group executed what appeared to be a standard patrol pattern. But hidden beneath the waves, 3 Virginia-class submarines slipped silently through the depths, their positions precisely calculated to create a 3-dimensional defensive web that even the aliens' advanced sensors were struggling to fully map. "Running Dark Horse Protocol," Jess announced, her fingers flying across the console. Above the carrier group, a swarm of F-35s began what looked like routine combat air patrol. But each fighter was transmitting quantum-encrypted data bursts that, when combined, created a sensor network more sophisticated than anything the Confederation had encountered in centuries of observation. Zix 427's antenna bristled, the equivalent of a human's jaw dropping. "Central, are you seeing this? The humans aren't just coordinating their forces. The observer paused, running another scan to confirm. "They're using their ship's electromagnetic signatures to create a meta-communication network. The entire carrier group is functioning as a quantum computer." In the depths of Narration, Jess initiated the next phase. A dozen microsatellites, previously dismissed by the aliens as space debris, suddenly began coordinating with the naval forces below. The entire Pacific theater had become a vast, interconnected combat ecosystem. "They're trying to recalibrate their cloaking field," Jess noted, watching the quantum fluctuations. "They still think we can't see them, but they're getting nervous about how close our random maneuvers are coming to their position." Colonel Thompson leaned over her station. "How much do you think they figured out?" "They know something's off, but their assumptions about our technological level are working against them." Jess pulled up a new display. "Look at their scanning patterns. They're so focused on looking for advanced technology that they're missing how we've weaponized simpler systems. They can't believe we could be this sophisticated using what they consider primitive tools." Above, Zix 427 was reaching a disturbing conclusion. The humans weren't just conducting military exercises. They were demonstrating capabilities that challenged fundamental Confederation assumptions about technological progression. No species was supposed to develop quantum networking before achieving faster-than-light travel. It violated every model of civilizational advancement the Confederation had documented. "Initiating final sequence," Jess announced. The carrier group began what appeared to be a standard retreat maneuver. But as they moved, each vessel contributed to a complex electronic warfare pattern that, for a fraction of a second, created a quantum interference wave that washed over the alien ship. Zix 427 systems flickered momentarily. "Central, we've been scanned." "No, that's not possible. These humans couldn't. They shouldn't be able to." For the first time in a long observation career, Zix 427 felt something unprecedented: fear. Not of human weapons or technology, but of the implications. If they could do this while still being considered a pre-contact civilization, what else were they capable of? In no raid, Jess saved the final data packet from the scan. Got everything we need, sir. Should we show our hand? Colonel Thompson shook his head. Not yet. Let them sweet it out a little longer. Something tells me our friends up there are about to make this really interesting. Neither of them could have predicted just how right he was, or how the next 24 hours would change the course of human history forever. The alert came without warning. A massive asteroid, nearly 200 meters across, had suddenly appeared on a collision course with both the International Space Station and the sector where Zix 427's cloaked ship maintained its observation position. Impact in 18 minutes, announced NORAD's AI system, its calm voice belying the chaos about to unfold. Jess's fingers were already moving across her console before Colonel Thompson could open his mouth. Initiating Planetary Defense Protocol Alpha, she declared, her voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. Coordinating with Space Force and NASA now. Above Earth, Zix 427 detected the approaching asteroid with mounting concern. The Confederation's protocols were clear. Maintain observation status regardless of circumstances. Interfering would violate dozens of non-intervention directives. Yet the massive rock would destroy their ship just as thoroughly as the humans' space station. Let's see how they handle this, Zix 427 muttered, sensors fully focused on Earth's response. They didn't have to wait long. Ground-based laser arrays charging, Jess announced, her hands dancing across multiple screens. Orbital platforms moving into position. Colonel, permission to deploy the Helios network. Thompson nodded grimly. Do it. What happened next made Zix 427's sensor arrays nearly short-circuit in disbelief. Dozens of seemingly inactive satellites suddenly powered up, revealing themselves to be part of an interconnected defense system. Each satellite carried a sophisticated laser array, but it was how they worked together that stunned the alien observer. Quantum entanglement targeting protocols engaged, Jess called out. Coordinating fire solution with ground assets in 3, 2, 1. The space around Earth lit up as multiple laser arrays, both ground-based and orbital, fired simultaneously. But they weren't simply blasting the asteroid. They were executing a precisely choreographed sequence that used the combined beams to create a gravitational lensing effect, multiplying their power exponentially. Impossible, Zix 427 whispered. They're weaponizing space-time itself. The asteroid began to break apart, but Jess wasn't done. Launching kinetic interceptors now. A dozen sleek missiles launched from hidden silos across the globe, their trajectories precisely calculated to intercept the largest remaining fragments. But these weren't ordinary missiles. They carried experimental quantum warheads designed to disrupt matter at the subatomic level. Central Command, Zix 427 transmitted urgently. The humans are demonstrating Type 2 weaponry. I repeat, a pre-contact species has developed quantum-based defense systems, requesting immediate analysis and updated protocols. The fragments of the asteroid were systematically reduced to harmless dust, creating a brief, beautiful light show visible from both Earth and the ISS. But Jess noticed something else. A slight quantum disturbance in the alien ship's cloaking field during the operation. They dropped their shields for 2.3 seconds, she informed Colonel Thompson quietly. Just long enough to record our response in detail. This wasn't a random asteroid, sir. Thompson's eyes narrowed. They're testing us. No. Jess pulled up the asteroid's trajectory analysis. This was real, but they chose to risk their mission to document how we handled it. They're learning that we're not what they expected. In orbit, Zix 427 was reaching a similar conclusion. The humans hadn't just survived a potential catastrophe. They had demonstrated technological capabilities that should have been centuries beyond their reach. More importantly, they had acted to protect not just their own assets, but the sector of space where they somehow knew the cloaked observation ship was hiding. Central Command, Zix 427 transmitted, "I believe we need to seriously reevaluate our assessment of human military capabilities." Their response to this crisis suggests. The observer paused, knowing the next words would shock the Confederation. Suggests they may be more advanced than we are in certain areas of defensive technology. Back in NORAD, Jess allowed herself a small smile as she monitored the alien ship's transmissions. "Sir," she said to Colonel Thompson, "I think it's time we moved to Phase 2. The Colonel nodded, understanding the implications. The game of cat and mouse was about to evolve into something far more interesting and potentially far more dangerous. Zix 427 was reviewing the asteroid incident data when their ship's sensors screamed a warning. The quantum detection grid they'd been using to observe Earth's military installations had suddenly gone dark. Not failed, dark. As if someone had. "No," the alien observer whispered. They couldn't have. In NORAD, Jess initiated the final sequence of her elaborate trap. "Quantum mirror array active," she announced, her voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. Reflecting their own cloaking field frequency back at them. Now. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zix 427's supposedly impenetrable stealth systems began experiencing cascading failures as their own quantum signatures were turned against them. It was like trying to hide in a room full of mirrors. Every attempt to adjust their cloaking only made them more visible. Impossible. Zix 427 transmitted frantically to Central Command. "The humans have somehow mapped our entire quantum observation network. They've been feeding us carefully selected data for calculating by the founders. They've been watching us watch them for months." Colonel Thompson stood behind Jess's station, watching as layers of deception peeled away. "Show them what else we know, Doctor." Jess typed in a series of commands, and suddenly Zix 427's communication channels filled with a startling message, transmitted using their own encrypted protocols. "Greetings, Commander Zix 427 of the Galactic Confederation Scout Force." Jess's message read, "We've been expecting you. Perhaps it's time we had a proper conversation about your assessment of Earth's military capabilities." The message was followed by a complete breakdown of every observation post the Confederation had established in the solar system, along with the exact quantum signatures of their cloaking technologies. The humans hadn't just detected them. They'd mapped their entire operation. Central Command, Zix 427 transmitted, voice shaking. "The humans have reversed engineered our quantum entanglement communications. They've been intercepting our reports since we arrived. Everything we think we know about their capabilities is compromised." In NORAD, Jess pulled up a holographic display showing the positions of every cloaked Confederation vessel in the solar system. "They're running standard containment protocols," she noted, "trying to determine how much of their technology we've actually decoded." "And how much have we?" Thompson asked. Jess smiled. "Everything they wanted us to decode, and nothing they didn't." She pointed to subtle patterns in the quantum data streams. "They're good, really good, but they make one crucial mistake. They assume any species advanced enough to detect them must use similar technology. They never considered we might develop completely different approaches to quantum mechanics. Above Earth, Zix 427 was reaching a shocking conclusion. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They developed it along a completely different evolutionary path than any species the Confederation had encountered. While the Confederation had focused on manipulating existing quantum fields, humans had learned to generate new ones. Central Command Zix 427 transmitted, requesting immediate protocol adjustment. The humans haven't just detected us. They've been conducting their own observation program. Every military exercise we've documented was staged specifically for our benefit. We haven't been studying them. They've been studying us. Jess watched the alien ship's quantum signatures shift as they try to adapt. They're realizing it now, she told Thompson. Every time they thought they were seeing our limits, they were actually seeing exactly what we wanted them to see. And what do we want them to see now? Thompson asked. The truth. Jess initiated a new transmission to the alien vessel. Or at least, enough of it to make them understand that humanity isn't just another emerging civilization to be studied and catalogued. We're something they've never encountered before. As her message reached the alien ship, Zix 427 read it with growing amazement. Commander, we appreciate your thorough assessment of Earth's military capabilities. However, we believe it's time to discuss the real reason the Confederation has been monitoring pre-contact civilizations with increasing urgency. Shall we talk about the threat that's coming from the galactic core? The game of hide-and-seek was over. Now the real negotiations could begin. The warning came from 3 different quantum detection grids simultaneously. A fleet of unidentified vessels had just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. And they weren't responding to Zix 427's recognition codes. Hardliners, Zix 427 transmitted urgently to Earth. A militant faction within the Confederation. They're launching automated drones to test your defenses. In no raid, Jess was already moving. Colonel, we've got multiple bogies incoming. Confederation design, but these are weaponized. Looks like somebody didn't appreciate our little revelation. Rules of engagement, Thompson asked, already activating the command center's battle protocols. Jess's eyes narrowed as she studied the incoming threats. They're autonomous weapons platforms, sir. No life forms aboard. Permission to demonstrate why that was a mistake. Thompson nodded grimly. Show them what we can really do, Doctor. What followed would be studied in Confederation military academies for centuries to come. Instead of responding with traditional defensive measures, Earth's military forces executed a strategy that the alien drone's combat AI couldn't even begin to comprehend. Initiating Operation Ghost Protocol, Jess announced, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. Quantum spoofing arrays online, beginning electromagnetic warfare sequence. The first wave of alien drones encountered what appeared to be a standard defensive screen of satellites and orbital platforms. Their A designated these as priority targets and opened fire, only to discover they were shooting at quantum holograms. They're adapting, Jess noted, watching the drones recalibrate. Deploying Phase 2. Suddenly, every communication frequency used by the drones was flooded with conflicting command codes. Earth's quantum computers had cracked their encryption in seconds and were now feeding them contradictory orders in their own command protocols. Zix 427 watched in stunned amazement as several drones actually began attacking each other, their AI completely confused by the human counter-programming. But Jess wasn't done. activating kinetic response teams. From hidden positions around Earth's orbit, specially designed spacecraft lodged into action. Unlike traditional military vessels, these were optimized for drone warfare. Each one carried an array of electromagnetic pulse generators, quantum disruption fields, and targeted jamming systems. Impossible, one of the hardliner commanders transmitted from their flagship. Their ships are predicting our drones' evasive patterns before they execute them. No, Zix 427 replied, understanding dawning. They're not predicting. They're manipulating quantum probability itself. These humans have weaponized uncertainty. The battle shifted into its final phase as Jess deployed her masterstroke, activating Project Mirror. The remaining drones suddenly found themselves targeted by exact copies of themselves, quantum duplicates that mimicked their every move while exploiting their weaknesses. It was like fighting their own shadows, and the drones A had no protocols for such a scenario. Colonel, Jess reported, we've got multiple drones attempting emergency shutdown, deploying capture teams now. Special operations spacecraft moved in, using precisely calibrated tractor beams to secure the disabled drones. Earth would soon have several pieces of Confederation military technology to study, not that they needed it. From their flagship, the hardliner commanders watched in horror as their simple show of force turned into a complete rout. Their most advanced autonomous weapons had been defeated not just decisively, but elegantly, using technologies they barely understood. Central Command, Zix 427 transmitted, not bothering to hide their satisfaction. I believe this concludes my assessment of Earth's military capabilities. Recommendation: immediate diplomatic contact and technology exchange negotiations. Additional recommendation: never, ever test their defenses again. In no raid, Jess allowed herself a small smile as she powered down the combat systems. Sir, we've captured 6 intact drones and disabled 14 others. More importantly, we've demonstrated our ability to counter their autonomous weapons systems without revealing our more interesting capabilities. Thompson studied the battle replay on the main screen. Think they got the message. The hardliners, definitely. But more importantly, Jess pulled up a new quantum transmission from Zix 427. I think we've convinced the right people that humanity isn't just ready for contact. We're necessary for what's coming. The real battle, they all knew, was still to come. But Earth had just proven it was more than ready to fight it. After the battle, No Raid's command center hummed with an energy that bordered on electric. Jess stood before a holographic display of the Milky Way, studying the red markers that indicated a spreading threat from the galactic core. Beside her, Zix 427 had materialized in person for the first time, a tall crystalline being that seemed to shimmer with internal light. Your defeat of the hardliner faction forced the Confederation Council to convene an emergency session, Zix 427 said, manipulating the hologram to zoom in on specific sectors. They've authorized me to share everything we know about the swarm. Colonel Thompson joined them, his expression grim. How bad is it? They emerge from artificial wormholes, Zix 427 explained, highlighting dozens of systems that had gone dark. Mechanical entities that consume everything in their path to fuel their expansion. The Confederation's standardized military doctrine has proven ineffective. Jess studied the attack patterns, her mind already racing with possibilities. Because you fight like the Confederation expects you to fight. Predictable. Organized. By the book. She gestured at the display. These swarm entities, they adapt to patterns, don't they? Precisely. Zix-427's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been admiration. Which is why your military doctrine is so fascinating. You don't just think outside conventional parameters, you actively seek to disrupt them. Jess walked to her console and pulled up data from the drone battle. Look at how your automated weapons responded to our quantum spoofing. They tried to adapt using pre-programmed protocols. But humans, she smiled. We improvise. That's what terrifies the Confederation hardliners, Zix-427 admitted. Your species develops weapons and tactics that shouldn't be possible at your technological level. You combine technologies in ways our military theorists never conceived. Thompson leaned forward, studying the swarm's advance. Because we evolved fighting ourselves. Every military advancement was countered by another human innovation. We never had the luxury of standardized doctrine. Exactly. Zix-427's form brightened with excitement. The Confederation achieved unity early in their development. Military doctrine became standardized, predictable. But humanity, the alien gestured at Earth's defense displays. You created quantum mirrors while still using combustion engines. Developed probability weapons alongside conventional firearms. It's beautiful chaos. Jess was already running simulations. The swarm adapts to patterns, but what if we presented them with constant chaos? Quantum uncertainty weapons combined with kinetic strikes. EMP bursts mixed with traditional explosives. Hit them with everything from sticks to antimatter, never establishing a predictable pattern. That's why I'm here. Zix-427 said solemnly. The Confederation wants to establish an immediate military alliance. We need your chaos, your unpredictability. We need humans to teach us how to fight outside our own parameters. Colonel Thompson exchanged glances with Jess. You're not just offering first contact. You want Earth to help lead the Confederation's military response to this threat. Indeed. Zix-427 manipulated the hologram again, showing the swarm's projected path. We estimate they'll reach Confederation space in 3 standard years. Earth's sector in 5. Unless we help you change the rules of engagement, Jess finished. She was already drafting preliminary battle plans, combining Earth's innovative combat doctrines with Confederation technology. We'll need to completely revolutionize how the Confederation approaches warfare. That's what we're counting on. Zix-427's form pulsed with what might have been hope. Your demonstration against the hardliner drones proved what I've been trying to tell Central Command. Humanity doesn't just think differently about warfare. You fundamentally change its nature wherever you go. Jess looked up from her battle plans, a glint in her eye. Tell your council we accept. But we do this our way. No more standardized doctrine. No more predictable strategies. It's time the Confederation learned to embrace chaos. As Zix-427 transmitted the acceptance to Central Command, Thompson watched the Galactic display thoughtfully. Think we can really help them change centuries of military tradition? Jessa's smile was fierce. Sir, changing the impossible is what humans do best. Besides, she pulled up the drone battle footage again. We've already started. The real challenge was just beginning, but for the first time since detecting the swarm, the Confederation had hope. They had humanity on their side, and chaos was about to become their greatest weapon. The Confederation flagship's observation deck buzzed with murmurs as hundreds of alien military leaders watched the training exercise unfold. Below them, in the vast zero-gravity chamber, Jess floated at the center of a holographic command interface, orchestrating what the Confederation was beginning to call Terran Combat Doctrine. First lesson, she announced, her voice carrying through quantum translators to the diverse audience. Forget everything you know about military hierarchy. Today, we're teaching your forces to think like guerrilla fighters. Zix 427, now serving as Earth's official liaison, noticed several Confederation commanders bristling at the concept. Our forces are trained to maintain strict command structures, one objected. This seems chaotic. Chaos is the point, Jess replied, initiating the first simulation. Watch. The chamber erupted with holographic warfare as two teams faced off, one using traditional Confederation tactics, the other employing Earth's new hybrid doctrine. The Confederation force moved with precision, their formations perfect, their strategies textbook. They were annihilated in under 3 minutes. Your problem isn't your technology, Jess explained, freezing the simulation. It's your predictability. Every species in the galaxy knows exactly how the Confederation will respond to any given threat, including the swarm. She reset the simulation, this time highlighting the Earth-trained forces' movements. Notice how each unit operates independently while still coordinating their overall strategy. They're not just following orders, they're adapting, improvising, making tactical decisions on the fly. Impossible to maintain proper command and control, another commander protested. That's what the swarm will think too, Jess grinned, launching the next phase, which is exactly why it works. The demonstration continued as Jess introduced concepts that made the Confederation leaders increasingly uncomfortable. Asymmetric warfare, false flag operations, deliberate tactical retreats that led to devastating counterattacks. You've developed your military doctrine around the concept of overwhelming force, she explained, showing historical Earth battles. We developed ours around the idea that the smaller force can still win through superior tactics, deception, and unconventional thinking. Zix 427 watched with growing appreciation as Jess demonstrated how Earth forces could combine Confederation technology with human strategy. Quantum weapons deployed alongside primitive explosives. High-tech stealth systems used to mask old-fashioned kinetic strikes. The swarm adapts to patterns, Jess continued, pulling up analysis of their attacks. So we give them no patterns to adapt to. Every engagement should be different, unpredictable. One time you hit them with antimatter weapons, the next with electromagnetic pulses, then follow up with simple projectile weapons. She initiated a new simulation, this time pitting the combined forces against a simulated swarm attack. The alien leaders watched in amazement as the hybrid force not only held its ground, but drove the swarm back using tactics that seemed to defy conventional military logic. This isn't just about winning battles, Jess explained, shutting down the simulation. It's about fundamentally changing how we approach warfare. The swarm expects the Confederation to fight like the Confederation. They won't expect you to fight like humans. One of the younger commanders floated forward, their crystalline form glowing with excitement. But how do we implement such radical changes quickly enough? The swarm will reach our territories in 3 years. That's why we're not just training your forces, Jess revealed, pulling up a new display showing hundreds of human military advisors being deployed across the galaxy. We're embedding human instructors with every major Confederation battle group. They'll teach your troops how to think independently, adapt on the fly, and embrace tactical chaos. Zix 427 addressed the assembled leaders. I've seen what humans can do firsthand. Their military doctrine isn't just different, it's revolutionary. And right now, revolution is exactly what we need. Jess surveyed the room, noting how the initial skepticism was giving way to cautious hope. The swarm thinks it's invincible because it can adapt to any pattern it encounters. But humanity's greatest military strength is that we don't follow patterns. We break them. The training would be intense, the changes difficult, but as the alien commanders began to understand the potential of human tactical thinking, one thing became clear: the Confederation was about to become a very different kind of military force. And somewhere in the galactic core, the swarm was about to learn why humanity had survived countless wars against itself. They were really good at winning impossible battles. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never seen a gathering quite like this. Representatives from Earth's military powers sat alongside crystalline Confederation delegates, all focused on the holographic display dominating the center of the room. Jess stood before them, with Zix 427 at her side, presenting the final assessment of their joint military preparation. 3 months of intensive training have transformed Confederation forces beyond our most optimistic projections, Jess reported, bringing up combat simulation results. Their adoption of human tactical doctrine has increased combat effectiveness against swarm simulations by 427%. And the real-world applications. The Chinese general leaned forward, studying the data. Jess nodded to Zix 427, who activated a live feed from the galaxy's edge. The assembled leaders watched as a combined human Confederation task force engaged a swarm scout fleet. The aliens' crystalline ships moved with newfound unpredictability, executing maneuvers that would have been considered heretical under old Confederation doctrine. What you're watching, Zix 427 explained, is the first successful repulsion of a swarm advance force in recorded history. They expected our standard response patterns. Instead, the feed showed a devastating combination of tactics. Confederation quantum weapons fired in seemingly random patterns, guided by human strategic chaos theory. Earth-designed electromagnetic pulses disrupted swarm coordination, while simple kinetic weapons, literally rockets filled with scrap metal, shredded their suddenly vulnerable formations. The swarm's primary advantage was their ability to adapt to patterns. Jess continued, freezing the footage on a particularly spectacular explosion. By combining human tactical unpredictability with Confederation technology, we've created something they can't adapt to, because there is no pattern to learn. The Russian representative raised an eyebrow. And the casualties. 0. Zix 427 reported proudly. The task force commander was one of Dr. Miller's first students. He used what humans call a fake retreat to draw the swarm into a prepared killing zone. The entire engagement was won without losing a single ship. The UN Secretary-General stood, addressing both human and alien delegates. Then it seems humanity's admission to the Confederation will be more than just a diplomatic formality. We're bringing something they desperately need: a new way of thinking about warfare itself. More than that, Jess corrected, bringing up a new display showing hundreds of training centers across the galaxy. We're creating a fundamental shift in how the galaxy approaches conflict. Every victory against the swarm proves that the old ways of thinking, rigid hierarchy, standardized responses, predictable tactics, are obsolete. Zix 427's crystalline form pulsed with what the humans had learned was amusement. The hardliners who once feared humanity's chaos now beg for human instructors. Your military academies have waiting lists thousands of names long. Species that haven't fought wars in millennia are learning to think like human guerrilla fighters. And the swarm? Another delegate asked. Jess's expression turned serious. They're adapting, but not fast enough. Every time they think they've figured out our strategy, we change it. One battle we fight like ancient Roman legions with space-age weapons. The next, we use quantum physics to turn their own mass against them. Then we might just ram them with ships full of explosives while broadcasting heavy metal music on all frequencies. The last one was particularly effective, Zix 427 noted. The swarm spent so much processing power trying to decode the purpose of the music that they didn't notice the antimatter mines. Laughter rippled through the chamber, but it was confident laughter, the kind that comes from knowing you have the upper hand. The galaxy is changing, Jess concluded. The Confederation needed humanity not because of our technology or our resources, but because we think differently. We see chaos as an advantage, unpredictability as a weapon. Every human who ever fought against overwhelming odds, who won battles they should have lost, who found creative ways to defeat superior forces. They were preparing us for this moment. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of both human and alien delegates. We're not just teaching the galaxy how to fight. We're teaching them how to think like humans. And that, more than any weapon or technology, is what will win this war. As the assembly broke into applause, Zix 427 leaned close to Jess. You know, when I first came to study Earth's military capabilities, I never imagined that we'd end up saving the galaxy by teaching aliens how to be unpredictable. Jess smiled. Welcome to humanity, friend. Impossible is what we do best. The future was uncertain, chaotic, and full of challenges. In other words, it was exactly the kind of fight humans were born for.